Welcome to the FPL USA Press Play Podcast. We are the official audio home of the hashtag FPL USA community. It's a full house tonight. I'm Bucks based in Brooklyn. I got my two besties on the Westie. I got Brian and Black Wolf. Brian, welcome back. Good to have you involved in the podcast once again.
2 consecutive weeks away was tough, especially when I was having half-decent game weeks. I wanted to be on the pod to have some banter, but you know me, going coast to coast. Got to cover off all my favorite cities. Was in New York seeing Bucks, had some pizza. Then I was in San Francisco, and now I'm back here in Santa Barbara enjoying the beach. But it's hot out here, boys. I got a sweat going on, and so does my FPL team because I got 3 free transfers burning a hole in my goddamn pocket.
Hold on.
Can you believe it?
You were in San Francisco?
Wow.
That's right. That's right.
Tea is about to be spilled.
I did the San Francisco disco one night, left the next day at about 1 p.m. Whew, it was quite the journey. I was up at 4:30 here, getting the commuter, Santa Barbara Beach to the city.
So you meet Bucks for a pizza. You don't contact me. Is that how it is?
No
Absolutely
invitation
not.
or
Absolutely
outreach to you, Dan. How's that make you feel?
Devastated.
Yeah, the amount of effort you would have to come to meet me in San Francisco for
I would do it.
A beer. Oh, you say that now. Last time I was in SF, you dodged me.
Well, I had a fair excuse last time, I feel.
I feel like that could be true. That could be true. What'd you have? You had the Rona? This was like a year ago I'm talking about.
Yeah, I had the Rona.
Yeah. Well, anyway, feels good to be back. And like I said, 3 free transfers to use for the first time ever. So heading into international break, it's a fun feeling here. How you doing, Dan? Other than hating me. Hating and missing me.
I didn't miss you. It must be nice to have the free transfer save there. How does that feel? Because I certainly don't have that.
I mean, I'm going to be taking some L's in the stock market this week, IRL and in FPL, because Hall is going to drop, Isak will drop, etc. But I'm just going to sit tight and make my moves after the IB. But I mean, boys, what is going on? We're playing international football. None of the stars are even attending their team's functions. What's the point of having IB so early? We just finished the Euros like a month ago.
Premier League only just came back and we're already on international break. Like you said, half the players are injured, fake injuries. It's really pointless.
I think fake injuries is what we're calling Brian's excuses to miss the podcast the last 2 episodes. Dan and I were carrying the weight of this hefty production, and I think we did a bang-up job, if I do say so ourselves. But we should transition into recapping our scores through 3 game weeks because, Dan, unfortunately, I don't think you're doing a bang-up job on that front. Why don't we detail it for the listeners?
Yeah, I'm kind of tired of being 3rd place every single week between you guys. But again, don't worry, I'm going to catch you up. I have no worries about that. I got 82 points this week, which to be fair was only 2 points and 5 points behind you guys. Really, I was looking so good until that last Liverpool game when I don't have Salah and I don't have Trent.
Amen.
So, watching Liverpool without Trent and Salah, it's kind of like spending a alone time with you, Bucks. Like, there's enjoyment to be had for sure, but you spend the whole time terrified you're going to do something to hurt me. So,
damn, that is a low blow. I'm just catching strays here as the most reliable podcast host. Damn.
Yeah, but watching Liverpool play without those two is just terrifying, and they hurt me every week. So, sneaky preview, I might change that this week.
And you have,
I love it. I'll go next
right now, heading into international break.
I have already used a free transfer, so I have no free transfers going into international.
This is crazy. You have made so many early transfers this year. I'm very surprised about that. But we won't have UCL starting this game week, but that is on the horizon as well. And the carnage will come. That is going to be very interesting to see some of these mainstays in our sides when we're thinking about rotational options like Jota, for example. I believe they play on a Saturday and then they have to fly to play AC Milan away like 2 days later on a Tuesday. So it's going to be interesting when we see rotation come into our sides for the first time with UCL on the horizon.
Yeah, I mean, I took the early transfer. I knew it was risky. However, I have the wildcard in my back pocket. There's a very good chance I play it in game week 4. So if things go tits up during the international break, I'll just hit my wildcard. I already have a draft which I really like, so I'm probably going to play it anyway. But we'll see. You got to catch
Boy
those
and
price rises.
cagey.
You're going to be
Boy
poor,
and cagey.
Brighton.
Dan, you're like more of a werewolf than Black Wolf this season. You've gotten totally frisky. Your claws are out. I really like it.
I'm spending too much time with you. That's what it is.
I know. I'm rubbing off on you. I apologize. We'll meet in
Claws,
person so I
claws, no
can
laws for Dan. Claws,
I'll
no
claw back
laws.
myself and my craziness off you when we finally meet in person for that beer. I'll go next. I was on 84 points. I'm currently top of the host table, but I did use a chip, and I really want to give kudos to our pod partner who's finally back in the mix. Brian, I think you are having a brilliant season. You've rolled 3 transfers so far, and I'm only a couple points better than you right now, despite that extra 17-point production that I got from the Norwegian robot himself on triple captain. So I think we're going to all be looking up at you in short order, and those 3 free transfers, nothing to write home about. So 84 points. I continue to beat the average, but I think I might have competition for my co-hosts in a pretty short while.
Yeah, I had a solid week, 87 points. You know, the OR is still fluctuating, but 430K at this point in the season is pretty solid. And I think a big pick for me that buoyed my game week was Kai Havertz. He finishes on 8 points, but honestly was unlucky to get a double return. He had a great breakaway chance when they were down a man late in that game versus Brighton. And then he also had a great pass to set up Saka. And so I think he's just looking like a great value into that team. But honestly, he's potentially on the chopping block this week because they have a few tough fixtures. So both Havertz and Saka are actually potentially on my chopping block with wildcard 6 as my kind of target. But overall, pretty happy with the squad. I think the biggest misses so far for me have been the triple Crystal Palace guys. Munoz, 1-pointer this past game week versus Chelsea. I wasn't expecting much from him this week, but Henderson at least came in with a 4-pointer, which feels like a return, right? Considering most goalies blanked and only
We'll
one
take
team
that.
kept a clean sheet, and that was Liverpool in the very final game of the match week. So ultimately, this was a roller coaster freaking weekend. So I think that's something we'll talk about when we recap some of the matches. But the points were coming in fast and furious on multiple days. So if you captained Mbumo, differential cap, you're feeling good, and then all of a sudden you get the Holland back-to-back just monster haul on the hat trick, and then after that you see mother bleep and Mo Salah come in with another huge haul. So it's pretty crazy. The premiums have all been delivering. Even the other lads have been trickling in points with players like Saka and Palmer. It's the premium guys have been priced correctly. So big ups to FPL Towers.
I find it interesting what you just said, by the way, about jumping off Havertz and Saka. I think that's why I really like these new rules that FPL have introduced. Because for people that are playing Wildcard 4, if they don't have transfers saved, they're likely to bring in the Arsenal assets ready for game week 6. If you do have transfers saved, or if you do have a wildcard, you're jumping off Arsenal assets and getting them in game week 6. So there's so many different strategies you can follow now, which you couldn't have before, which I really like. Because myself, for example, who I've just told you I have no free transfers, if I do play a wildcard 4, there's probably going to be 2 Arsenal assets in there.
Yeah, that's the main benefit I have right now for having some patience and wildcard in game week 6. I'll be able to have a triple up on Arsenal and be able to swerve that fixture versus Man City, which has historically been like very cagey, 0-0, 1-1. Like they haven't been explosive games for the attackers. Like, of course, it could be a 2-2 thrilling match, but we've seen Pep and Arteta line up pretty lightly in the attack and really just play at a defensive game. So I think that's my main benefit for potentially skipping those guys for game week 5, especially.
All right, great banter. I think we're going to talk about a super haul from the manager of the game week in our Press Play Premiership, which is our free to enter podcast mini league. It is open to any FPL manager, not just ones here in the USA. And there will be a free kit going to the overall winner, as well as weekly shout outs. Code to enter is T88F87. Brian, who was the top scorer in that awesome and competitive mini league this game week?
Yeah, I have to shout out Alex Barron, MBFC. He put in 105 points. He is up to 67K OR, so having a flying start, and he actually did very well last season as well. I think he was in the top 5K if I remember correctly. So, friend of the show, he's been following us for a couple seasons, and he had huge hauls. Salah with 17, Eze with 10, Mbomo also in that midfield with 14, Havertz with 8, Isak with 9, Holland captain for 34. So a very, very impressive game week. And he's somebody who we will definitely be watching throughout the season. He's not used any chips yet, and he's already in the top 70K. So well done to Alex.
Yeah, that is a very impressive triple-digit score. We've had a number of triple-digit scores from top managers in that free-to-enter mini league. Maybe one of the three hosts will get to that lofty total in due time. But without further ado, let's take our first break. When we come back, we will rewind to cover the action in Game Week 3.
And we're back. Let's recap what we saw in Game Week 3 with the eye test and start with the last match of the game week, which was Liverpool with a 3-0 destruction of Manchester United. This is something that's become very typical for all the viewers to see Mo Salah absolutely bag points in FPL at Old Trafford. He was a great captaincy shout. I didn't see as many going with him. I think maybe Palmer was slightly above him, and then Holland's 2 times above Palmer. So interesting to see. Once again, Salah, 1 goal, 2 assists, clean sheet, and 3 BAPs.
I mean,
Essential?
I don't think.
What do we think?
First of all, I don't think anyone should be surprised by this result. If you heard the pod last week where me and Bucks just ripped into Manchester United for about 10 minutes, I mean, exactly what we said is what happened. They got totally dismantled by Liverpool. I mean, Arne Slot's been their manager for a few weeks and he's already figured out their system and worked out a better system than Ten Hag. He's just a shit manager. They're a shit team. And I'm just tired of watching them, to be honest. But yeah, Salah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And you took the words right out of my mouth, because the post-game press conference, Slot looked like he could be the best manager for both teams. He should just take over being part-time Manchester United manager also. He wrote the game plan on a napkin and handed it to ETH and then kicked his butt with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could be a better manager than Ten Hag at this point, Bucks.
Better manager than you in FPL, so it goes without saying.
Oh, wow.
I don't know about that. But yeah, Salah, like, no one's essential for sure. But I think Salah and Haaland are as close to essential as you can get. Like I said, like it's kind of frustrating having Haaland only and not Salah. Watching Haaland get a hat-trick only for Salah to go and match his score the day after on the Sunday when you don't own him. It's just very annoying.
Yeah, I want to double down on that, actually. I was thinking about this, just the way the scoring system is set up, and I would really love to see like an additional point system for when you score a brace or a hat trick or multiple goals in a game, because I feel like Haaland's performance and getting a hat trick was way more impressive than Salah with his clean sheet point and his 2 assists. Like I just like, it's obviously a great performance, but to be on the same amount of points as somebody with a hat trick, I don't like it. I wish there was like, if you score 2 goals, you get an additional point. If you get a hat trick, you get 2 additional points for that. Because in the bonus system, once you're on a goal these days for the midfielders, you're on 2 or 3 bonus already. And we're just seeing Salah, of course, play as a quote unquote midfielder, which is a bunch of bullshit. Dude barely plays any defense, right? So he's undeserving of the clean sheet. And so I'm just pointing that out. Like, I think it's just so much more impressive to score your 8th hat trick in the Premier League history when you're Haaland, but to come up with the same amount of points as somebody like Salah this week, I just didn't think was justified.
You know, I kind of like that. I think you should contact FPL, see if they'll do that.
Oh, those dinosaurs!
They're avid
it's a miracle
listeners.
we even got some changes this year. So I won't bother them with the spam note.
I have to say, Dan, you referenced having both premiums. I think that is the managers. There's about a quarter of the community that was bold enough to play that way, and they're feasting because both Haaland and Salah are tied for the best ever start to the FPL calendar through 3 game weeks. Each of them are on exactly 41 points, which beats Antonio's best ever start of 40 points a couple years ago. I know when I
Wow,
saw
little
one
nugget there.
Michelangelo Antonio, I was
Little
shocked about
spicy
that.
nugget. Okay. I like that. I like that. I mean, it's one of those things where some folks will say, "Oh, I went with Salah, so I've saved 2.5 million," and those managers could certainly be ahead, but ultimately you're only going to captain one of them. So I think long term, I will still be looking to have one or the other, but through specific windows, it might be valuable to have both, as we'll see in our transfer plans potentially later for game week 4. With that being said, if you did start with Luis Diaz, you would be flying because he is really banging in the goals. 2 shots, 2 goals, similar to Jota this season, just being very clinical to start the season, which is not something we saw from Diaz in the past. So he seems to be nailed on this left side. Do you see him rotating at all for UCL, or is it just going to be a TBD thing, but just good to see him on the first team with his form right now?
Oh, he's a better pick than Jota right now. I think that's pretty clear. He's more nailed. He doesn't get rotated as naturally at the 65, 70-minute mark. And he has back-to-back double-digit hauls. So 15 points in game week 3 after 14 points in game week 2. He's looking like a brilliant get at 7.6 million. And there's brilliant gets across the Liverpool first team because they also have kept 3 out of 3 clean sheets. They're the only team in the Premier League to start in that kind of form in attack as well as in defense. So Slot is doing great work at Anfield right now, and the fixtures continue to be juicy from a Liverpool perspective.
It will be interesting to see what they do when the Champions League starts, when they have like Hakpo. They just signed Chiesa as well. I'm curious how they integrate him. So I imagine Diaz's minutes will go down a little bit. But, even if this guy plays 55, 60 minutes, he can still get a double-digit haul. No problem. This Liverpool attack is clinical. They score so many goals. So I wouldn't be too worried about that if I owned him.
Would you rather have double Liverpool attack or double Liverpool defense if you, in fact, activate your wild card, Dan?
If I was picking 3 Liverpool assets right now, I would have Salah, Robertson, and Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Interesting, because Luis Diaz has all those points that TAA and Robbo have the potential of getting. He actually has them already in his locker.
Yeah, I just think from a structural perspective, I think the structure of 2 Liverpool defense and 1 Liverpool attack just makes more sense.
Ryan, you echo that sentiment?
Yeah, definitely. I think we're seeing Trent with about 20 points through the first 3 matches. He could easily have been on 40 points, right? He had a goal chalked off from a small offside infraction from Salah, where that would have been a huge, likely 14 or 15 pointer from him. So I think that's something you have to take into consideration as well. And then coming off early, not a bad thing. Honestly, it's not the worst thing. He's playing 70, 75 minutes, but that clean sheet is getting locked. And then right after he was off, we almost saw Liverpool give up a goal to Xerxes. So though you kind of don't mind, especially if he ends up on bonus, which is pretty consistent, to get that clean sheet and 8-pointer locked in.
I have one last name to throw in the mixer, and I want to hear both your takes on this individual. We were all hot to trot on Kwanzaa to start the season, but since he went off after that first half, Konate has come in and looked really good and solid in the back line, and he's by far the cheapest way into the Liverpool starting 11. Any Konate curiosity at 5 million? Jan, you're already shaking your head. Your hat's flying off. You're shaking so hard.
Because the Champions League will start up and then Kwanzaa will be nailed again. Everyone will bring Konate in and then it'll be Kwanzaa starting all the games. I'm done with those guys. Fuck
you've been talking to Dallas too much. He's the one Kwanzaa guy who's still believing.
Konate is just a bit frail, so I don't see him staying healthy and worth a transfer in. Maybe on wild card you could take that chance, and then if you have to deal with him later, but I would just be worried about using a transfer to bring him in, then a couple of games later, UCL rotation, etc. And again, they have some tough fixtures coming up, like AC Milan. They probably have to play their first team, you would expect. So it's just muddies the waters a bit too much. But all right, let's keep it moving here. That's a lot of Liverpool talk,
Great
but
chatter.
for good reason, right? Like they're a team that we want to triple up on, and their next 2 fixtures are, as Bucks likes to say, yum yum.
Yeah, they're warm glazed donuts, delicious. That's how appealing they are. The green fixture run continues for the Reds. Let's go to the team also at the top of the table, and that's Manchester City. I don't think this was their best effort. They beat West Ham 3-1 comfortably away, and it's all thanks to Holland. He is just the Terminator. He's the best goal scoring machine I've ever seen in professional football. And he's taking another leap this season, coming in fully rested and fit. He gets his second hat trick in 2 game weeks for another 17-point explosion with 3 goals and 3 bonus points. He now has the most ever goals in Premier League history in the first 3 game weeks. He's adding another record to his locker. He has 7 goals through 3 game weeks. Guy is incredible.
I love to see at the end of the game in extra time, he made a massive sprint down the pitch trying to get his 4th goal. And that just means how hungry he is, how healthy and fit he is. And with no other substitutions, especially with Fodinho, with a little bit of the sniffles or whatever flu he has, there's really nobody else to play, even like the false 9 right now for City. So he's playing 90 plus minutes and he has the desire to really bag more FPL points. So
Yeah,
15 million, he's still worth it. His floor for captaincy is 14 points every game week, and that's still very high. I'm not going to captain him against Liverpool or Arsenal, but every other fixture, I think he's an easy captain choice if you have him on your side.
He looked genuinely pissed that he missed his 4th goal. That's what I like too. You're right. This guy is so hungry. He's going to get so many goals. It leads me to the next question, actually. There's a lot of people that are swerving Haaland if they're playing Wildcard 6, taking him out for these next 2 games. How do you guys feel about that? Because I personally just think this guy right now can score against anyone. I can see him even scoring 2 against Arsenal. Why not? This guy is
Brian, I agree with you,
amazing.
Dan. Brian, why do you think he can't get more than 1 goal against Arsenal and Liverpool? He's just on such a different level to the other attackers in the Premier League. And I feel like he makes even the best center backs look like babies. He's a man among boys.
I would say if we're rating Arsenal defense and Liverpool's defense very highly, plus their just control aspects, it's not slagging off him, but he relies on service from other players. He's not going to be somebody who can take the ball and then dribble through 4 people and then get his shot off typically, right? So I just think in those matches, he's just going to have so fewer chances because we respect the manager's game planning against him. Like, of course, he could hat trick against anybody, but when you're looking at potentially captaining Salah in game week 5 home to Bournemouth instead of captaining Haaland at home versus Arsenal, I just think, yeah, I would lean that way, but I'll take your thoughts here, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, my point more was that I still think going without Haaland is a valid strategy. However, there's a lot of people out there saying, hey, if you're wildcarding 6, take the guy out right now. You don't need him. You can spread your funds around and get a better team. I don't think it's that black and white. I think if you want to keep Haaland for these 2 games because you think he can score, go for it. I certainly think he can still get points.
Brentford defense has looked pretty poor,
yeah.
I would say. Like they're scoring goals, but I think they've given up some big chances. They gave up multiple big chances to Southampton. I mean, what are we talking about here? He's on for a brace against Brentford.
Sorry, Brian. Flecken has the most saves in the top Big 5 leagues, despite playing 1 game less than all the La Liga teams. So Brentford definitely concede chances. I would not be selling Haaland. It will be to my FPL detriment, the amount of love that I feel for this Norwegian fella, because he's just incredible. I said it at the end of last season. I would have him in my team as a lock at 18 million out of the 100 million. I just think he's that essential. He can be in every game week captain, even against Arsenal, even against Liverpool. I don't think he's going to be that far below the optimal captaincy pick, which might be Salah in game week 5, and it might be, say, Palmer in game week 4. So, excuse me, Salah in game week 5 and Palmer in game week 6. So, there's ways to spread the funds around and get a really competent team, but that's just never going to be my FPL play style. I really like having Haaland. It's like having a warm blanket and, a close friend to cry on when your game week's going bad. Haaland can save you with a big haul.
All right, elsewhere in this match, we saw KDB pull up with a 2-pointer, but he went off the bar, created a number of chances. Looks pretty spry. Again, not somebody I would be going for for FPL specifically, but in terms of his form plus feeding Holland, I think that's a good combination. And then I just also want to hear your guys' thoughts on Rico Lewis's performance. Comes away with a 6-pointer, gets an assist to Holland, who absolutely thunderbolted that shot into the roof of the net, and then also gets a bonus point. I do not own Rico Lewis, and I've always played FPL with at least one and often two defenders from City. And so it's really taking a lot to hold my fingers back from hitting that transfer button and taking out Munoz and bringing in Rico Lewis. But what are your thoughts here so far on his positioning specifically, inverting in the midfield, and then how that adds up to FPL points?
Yeah, I mean, I've had him for 2 weeks now because I took Kwanzaa out for him, and I just love owning him. I love watching this guy. He gets so far forward. He's like in the box constantly in that inverted right wing back role. Now, people are saying about Kyle Walker coming back in and displacing him. However, I'm not sure I see it, because if Pep is really going to stick with this system of playing an inverted right back in the middle like Rico Lewis and keep Gvardiol back, Kyle Walker can't play that role. Maybe some games we'll see Kyle Walker play right back and put Gvardiol as the inverted left back. But the amount of good stuff that Pep is saying about Rico Lewis, I don't see him dropping him right now.
Yeah, we haven't seen how he'll combine with Rodri as well. So I think that's something we have to take into consideration. But when we're talking about his upside as just like a long-term talent, like, guy is absolutely phenomenal. He's a jackknife in there. I think he can play multiple positions, and he's going to be a mainstay in that City squad for a long time. So it'll just be interesting.
4.6. He's 4.6. You have to remember that.
When we get to some of those big matches, like, does he start against Arsenal? If he starts against Arsenal, he's the 100% nailed in almost every FPL team, because he's sub 5 million. He's so much cheaper than the rest of the defenders there. So that could actually be one of the biggest misses of FPL Towers in terms of pricing if he continues to play 2,500 minutes this season.
Yeah, I'm waving the Rico Lewis pom-poms on the bandwagon right alongside you.
Rico,
Dan,
Rico.
Yeah, Rico, you're great. He's been fantastic. He's been playing second striker at some points in the game, which is crazy. He hit the bar. Him and Trent, I think, are the defenders that just one alongside the other. You know that a big haul is coming for one of them, and maybe both in game week not too far in the distant future. So I like having both of them. I think Rico Lewis is set to price rise once again, maybe before this episode actually releases to the masses. So he could easily be 4.7 million by the time you are looking to bring him into your team, Brian. So words of wisdom, maybe
even if he's becomes 5 million, he's still good value, right? So
agreed. I think he's a better value than Gvardiol right
now. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, especially because we're seeing Gvardiol be less attacking because of the positioning of Rico Lewis specifically, and so he's not coming in as high as he once was last season. So good times at City, though. They look like they are on. I mean, the race hopefully will be very tight for the whole season, but Liverpool, Arsenal, and City look to be dominant teams in the Premier League. And let's jump to that Arsenal 1-1 performance, a shambolic red card, the first of his career in the Premier League for Declan Rice. What a shit show that was for him. Break it down for me, Dan.
I mean, I think I'm in the minority here. I think it was a fair yellow card. He kicks the ball away. I know it was stupid and he tapped it with his foot.
What the fuck are you talking about? Golly,
I'm sorry. He even said it himself in his interview. He's like, I shouldn't have done it. You know for a fact, if you kick the ball away, even if it's just knocking it slightly, you're going to get a yellow card.
No, that's not true. That's not true, because
that's not true. The ref
Pedro fucking kicked it half the pitch.
That's another story.
Like, oh, no problem. We'll just restart it.
That's another story. But you know that if you kick the ball away, there's a chance you get a yellow card. So it was kind of stupid of him to do that. You know, that's just my fault.
Oh yeah, it was dumb.
Yeah, but
it
the
was dumb. I prefer not to be called, but whatever.
The ref put his hand way too heavily on the scale in that match. I mean, the Arsenal team was so dominant, and they even had really good chances once they were down to 10 men against Brighton. I mean, those 2 points could play a massive part in deciding the champion at the end of the season. And don't even get me started about the Chelsea Palace game. The refereeing quality, the caliber, and the consistency just should be looked at. I mean, if the clubs are being looked at under such a microscope for PSR and for all these, financial rules, the refs need to be looked at. I mean, are they having their friends place bets on these games? There's no way that should have been a red card offense, the way that the game was going and
I
how
mean,
the
I
ref
know
kind
I
of
am
waved
Bucks.
off the João Pedro stuff earlier in the match. It didn't make sense.
I mean, as a non-owner of Arsenal defense assets, I was happy to see that clean get wiped. I could not stand seeing Raya on another 8-pointer, right? If that would have come to fruition. So the Arsenal defense still good. They were bossing that match. I think the real upside of Saka is something that we're all thinking about going into this next fixture run, where Palmer has great fixtures and then Salah has great fixtures, right? So is Saka a worthy make weight to move to one of those other players for the next couple matches? So what are your thoughts there?
I do. I think it's worth moving Saka to Salah if you can. And if you're on wild card, maybe having both Salah and Palmer as opposed to Saka in the team at all. But I actually want to swerve hard here and just give you kudos, Brian, because your Kai last minute pick has looking like a maestro move. He gets another 8 points for you, a goal and 2 bonus. I was looking at the advanced stats. He's averaging over a 1.25 return per 90 minutes that he plays in this Arsenal team, which is absolutely bonkers. And at 8.1 million in the FPL game, I think him and João Pedro, who also got 8 points, I think they're both going to be brilliant picks if you are wildcarding in game week 4. And they also will be brilliant picks if you wildcard in game week 6. So I really like the look of a front three of Haaland, João Pedro, and Havertz as kind of the optimal triple up top.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I'm considering whether to drop Kai for 2 game weeks and roll with Isak or drop Isak. So those are my questions heading into the international break, because Arsenal go away to Tottenham and away to City in back-to-back matches. Champions League also in that mix. So that's just something that I'm weighing up, but I want to gloat myself up a little bit. I mean, a lot of people had Dom Solanke as our Black Wolf did indeed to start the season. And I just really, based on what I saw for him in the Germany side and at the end of last season, just the continuity and still growing within the system, but having a solidified starting 11 that you just really trust at Arsenal made me go that way, even though he's not on pens. So it's a good pick for now. We'll see if I'll be on double defense or have 2 Arsenal attackers in game week 6 wild card.
I think that's what you've got to decide. If you're going to wildcard in wildcard 6, if you're going to have Havertz in wildcard 6, you might as well keep him for the next 2 and take out Isak. If you think on wildcard 6 you're going to do double defense and Saka, then yeah, you can probably take Havertz out. Because I personally think Spurs away is not a red fixture. Spurs away is a green fixture for Arsenal, for sure.
Oh, green. Green.
There's no way Arsenal... There's every chance Arsenal can go into that game and score 3 or 4 goals. I really, truly believe that. Tottenham just can't defend for shit.
I mean, it's really, though, also Newcastle at Wolves. And
Wolves are great. Wolves are great defense.
Wolves, after seeing a team give up 6 goals in one match, it's hard to possibly trust them to hold Newcastle back. So anyway, that's just something I'm weighing up. But with wildcard 6 in hand, like I even if I make the mistake and take Kai out and then he hauls versus Tottenham, I just don't see him getting double digits versus Man City. So it's not as high of a risk, whereas Isak will play away to Fulham, and Fulham look pretty leaky, I would say, as well. They're giving up 2+ goals in every match. So yeah, it's a personal problem.
Yeah, it's good to be going great in the first part of the season. I would say devil's advocate towards Dan's point that Newcastle have not looked their best selves in their opening 3 fixtures, and they've had a cupcake schedule to start the season. So both are good options. Both could be pitfalls for your team, Brian. Next match on the rundown is Brentford. They shoot to stay hot, and they beat Southampton at home 3-1. And I think the big news is who's out of this squad, and that's Ivan Toney. He's going from 40K. Yeah, RIP to the Betman himself. He's going from 40K weekly wages up to 400K in a move to Saudi Arabia. Unfortunately, they don't have sports betting in the kingdom, so he will be pretty bored on the weekdays as he's training for his new side there. But that means that Evil Bryan is unleashed. Let's get a mad scientist laugh from you, Brian.
Mwahaha, Evil Bryan will take over the world. My
Yeah, and
goodness, what
Bomo.
an asset. What an asset he is going to be, especially game week 6 onwards. I mean, I mean, not essential, but he's one of the best picks in the game from game week 6 onwards because on pens, set pieces, open play threat is there, can pass, talisman for the team. I might even put him ahead of Eze in terms
I,
of what he can do.
I was going to say, I think outside of Haaland and Salah, I personally think Mbumo is the best asset in the entire game because he gets so many chances, he gets so many points. He's the
Wow.
talisman for Brentford. He takes penalties. He's only 7 million, well, 7.1/7.2 now. But this guy, I think he's almost essential from game week 6. In fact, if I play wildcard in game week 4, he's even going to be on my game week 4 wildcard. I don't care if he plays Tottenham. I don't care if he plays Man City. But this guy's going to be in my team if I wildcard.
I mean, he's the fucking boom boom king. Like, come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, 14 points, 2 goals, and 3 bonus points. I think the stats with Tony on the field and off the field are just so stark that he goes from being really like a supporting character to being the fucking main man in the stripes at Brentford. He goes from being one of the worker bees to the queen bee himself. And no one should be coming for Beyonce or Evil Bryan. That's for sure.
And then we have to throw Wissa into the mix as well, just to think about him again. Game week 6 onwards, their run is West Ham, Wolves, Manchester United, Ipswich, Fulham, Bournemouth, Everton, Leicester. Are you kidding me? What a fucking run that is. So the double up could be on the cards, and especially with Wissa being, I believe, 6 mil flat.
6
He's,
million,
he's
yeah.
he's a good option because we all kind of have that price point in our sides as well. Now that João Ladro is 5.7, you got Wood at around 6 million. So there's a lot of room in our teams for another 6 million option. So definitely on the watch list for me.
Yeah, and no midweek competition. So they're going to be rested each and every game week, which I think is really important as we get into the nut crunching part of the Premier League season.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to be owning João Pedro right now because they have 2 amazing fixtures coming up: Ipswich at home, Nottingham Forest at home. But then from game week 6, they have Chelsea away, Tottenham, Newcastle away, Liverpool away, Man City at home. I think jumping from Brighton to Brentford is going to be very popular. So I know he's 0.5 million more, but you can find that somewhere. Moving João Pedro to Wisa is definitely going to be a popular option, I feel.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
João Ladro pick in my side is like 100% nailed as one of my ways to raise funds to get Salah for game week 4. But again, having wild card for game week 6 and being able to pivot right off of João Pedro into somebody like Wissa, I'm very excited about that turn of fixtures as well. So the Brentford guys and then also Arsenal are like a big boon for game week 6 wild carders.
great shout. Let's cover the last match that we want to focus in on, which is Everton 2, Bournemouth 3. Everton, what a fucking disaster. They are a flaming bag of shit on your front porch this season. They were up 2-0 going into the 86th minute and managed to lose the game 3-2. And I think we should just shout out Semenyo, who's looking like he could be found money on the floor for FPL managers. 5.5 million. And he's been playing kind of second striker as a midfielder. So he's getting extra points. He gets another goal, 6 points this game week, but he's been hauling and he looks like the best budget enabler, sub 6 million right now. What say you to that, Dan?
Yeah, I want to do a shout out to FPL USA content creators at Radar FPL on X. They do some amazing charts and they released one in the past 2 days that shows who are getting the most points, who are the most talismanic players for each team. Semenyo is by far their most talismanic player. At 5.5 million, well, he's 5.6 now because he rose. He is a very, very good asset. And they have some nice fixtures coming up soon. So I'm also looking at him on a wild card because this guy is just owning all of their chances pretty much.
Yeah, and they play Chelsea away, which we should say in the FDR is marked as a red fixture. But I am the most diehard Chelsea fan on this podcast. Our defense is a mess. Our goalkeepers, we have 8 of them. They might all suck. So I would not feel any kind of way backing Semenyo with a starting spot going to Stamford Bridge in game week
They're,
4.
they're playing at home. They're playing at home
Oh,
to
even
Chelsea.
better.
Yeah, even better.
I think there's going to be goals in that game. And I think if Bournemouth are going to get some, Semenyo is going to be involved.
Yeah, I believe I saw a stat the other day that only Erling Haaland has more shots in the box than Semenyo so far to start this young season. So obviously he's creating pockets of space in and around the box that previously we saw Solanke occupying and making those runs. He's also the age profile where you think he's kind of on the up and about to have one of his best seasons ever. So I like the pick when you're looking at Minte, him, and probably ESR. I would put Semenyo top. Their fixtures, though, you kind of want to rotate, but Minte's fixtures for the next two are great. And then, like Dan said, Brighton's fixtures fall off a cliff. So I think if you're in a game week 4 wildcard position, having a player like Semenyo to rotate with another player long term is a great setup structurally.
Totally. He's nailed in my game week 4 wildcard draft. He's
Really?
just too good at that
Ooh,
price.
I like that.
Yeah, he's too good at that price. And, in the bad fixtures, he's pretty easily benchable. But I almost feel like similar to a player like João Pedro, you don't know when they're going to get returns. And just the nature of the way Bournemouth play under their manager, Areola, I'm impressed. I think they are a good attacking side. The defense, especially with Chelsea bounce out Kepa in net, less secure.
Do you prefer him than Minter in your game week 14?
Yes, 100%. He's 90-minute man. And I think Minta is, you could argue he's third, if not fourth fiddle in that Brighton attack. And he's getting rotated with the Dingra. I far prefer Pedro, Matoma, and I know I'm crazy in this way. I think Welbeck has been really impressive, and I can't see him being dropped. So I think Minta comes fourth.
I mean, Brian's laughing at you, but I think Welbeck is a very sneaky good choice. I think you should go for him. If you want him on your wildcard 4 team, go for it, Bucks. Don't let anyone talk you out of that.
Right now, I will be sharing my screen with both of you a little later in the episode, but I have double Brighton forwards and Holland. And the plan would be to move either Welbeck or Pedro, whoever's in form, to Wissa in game week 6.
I love it.
And then, I think I'll probably take a -4 in game week 6 to make sure I get the Arsenal coverage.
Yes.
I will be there.
Give us points. Give Dan and I points, baby. Love
no
to
worries,
hear that.
baby. I'm already looking to jump up another 10 to 20 points with this wild card draft. So Everton suck. I think that should be clear. They are the most obvious targetable fixture, home or away. They are there to get banned. They're there to get battered and to gift FPL managers with heaps of FPL points.
Yep, that fish fry out there right now in Merseyside. It's rough. It's rough for them.
Couple other players we want to just mention and give them their proper flowers. Eze comes go with the goal, 3 bonus points. Finally.
Yeah.
10 points. That's big. Palmer keeps doing the business. He gets another attacking return. He has 6 points because he gets a stupid yellow card. So he's on an assist, yellow card, and 2 bonus. Chris Wood, shout out at FPL Hunt, who was one of the managers who went there. Also, Harry, FPL Harry, both friends of the show.
And Paz.
Oh, and Paz. Yeah, but he's cock blocking me in my own city the way Brian did to you. So no free pizza for you, Paz. Sorry, baby.
Did he not meet you for lunch?
No, he
Wow.
He lost my messages in the interwebs. So whatever. He gets the 9 points, so he's laughing all the way to the bank where I'm eating pizza by myself at the losers table. So and then Isak.
Evil Bryan strikes again, making sure that you had Muniz instead of Wood to start the season.
Yeah,
Woo.
you fucker. Golly, Jeepers. You really talked me out of that. That was a single-handed effort, underhanding effort. And then Isak also finally comes good, 9 points, goal, and 3 bonus points. So there are a lot of attacking returns, not a lot of clean sheets this season with the changes in the structure of extra time and the new emphasis on going for broke for those goals. I like it.
Yeah, another player just quickly wanted to shout out was Pedro Porro. 6 shots in the match, the highest of any player on the pitch when you're looking at all those attackers from Newcastle and Tottenham. So somebody who's still probably on the fringes of my game week 6 wildcard team, but somebody I'm very interested in just from an attacking perspective. He looks freaking great. So dodged a bullet with that one, and he returned in the first 2 matches this game week as well. So all right, let's take a break here, and then we're going to come back and just get Bucks Wild shirts off approach to early wild card tinkering. We'll be right back.
Nips out.
Ooh, look at those diamond cutters.
And we're back. I think the most important thing to understand going into game week 4 wildcard is that there's plenty of time between now and the end of the international break to finalize your team. So there's no urgency to smash the button per se, but there are price rises and price changes that can affect the feasibility of your optimal wildcard team. So with that, I'm happy to share that I have smashed the wildcard button already. I don't think I needed to per se. I think my team was relatively well set up, but I had double Newcastle attack, which has been underwhelming. And I just feel like I didn't have Mo Salah. And the quicker I could get Trent and Mo Salah both in my team, I only had Trent and Jota. I just feel like the move was to keep the free transfers that I may or may not have and just use the chip and go for broke to get a optimal kind of haul potential team. So yeah, that's what I did. I'm already on wildcard. I've already gained, I think, 0.5 million in price changes into my team based on that move. And yeah, I'm debating between 2 drafts right now, and they're both a little wacky and Bucks Wild as I like it.
All right, well, walk us through your favorite one here quickly. We can do this in a couple minutes.
Okay, my favorite one, let's start in attack because I think that's where I'm getting kind of interesting and different than most. So I mentioned before, I have João Pedro, 5.7 million, Erling Haaland, 15.1 million, and Danny Welbeck, 5.7 million, leading my attack. And the plan will be to change one of those Brighton attackers into Yohan Wissa come game week 6. So those are my 3 attackers, and I will be playing ideally a 3-4-3 every single game. Questions, comments? Dan is looking at me like I'm speaking Cantonese right now.
I'm waiting for the whole draft.
Patience is key with our Black Wolf. All right, next in my midfield, I have Salah. He's a lock. I have Semenyo. He's a lock. And then my debate is kind of those last 3 positions. So in one version, I have Mbomo, Eze, and Minte, which I don't love, to be honest. And my preferred option is I have Palmer, Eze, and Rogers. So I will be getting on the Morgan Rogers kind of hype train. And I think Rogers is a great 8th attacker. I really don't want to be in a position where having to play him each and every game week. I think he might be slightly overrated is my hot take through the first 3 game weeks. So that gives me a threemium. And then I also have Trent in my backline. So my backline right now is Trent, Lewis, Dunk. So I have the whole Lewis Dunk experience with 2 players. And then I have Dean as just a placeholder at 4.5 million. It'll probably be Pau or Konza or someone boring like that. And then your guy,
so
Mascara.
boring. Villa defense.
Yeah, it's gross, but it's an enabler. And then I have Mascara. And then in goal, I have Fabianski and Henderson. There's all the potential in the world that if I don't have Palmer, I'll have Robbo as well as Mbomo in to start. So again, just a couple things I'm weighing up, and version 2 of my draft has less planned transfers, but it's also kind of less upside for game week 4 and 5. So that's just the decision making that I'm weighing up. In the case of my preferred draft, I would go Palmer down to Saka and keep Salah. So I would keep my structure of having kind of a 3-4-mium with Haaland, Salah, Palmer, and then Saka and Trent. So just wanted to share that with you. I know just me saying a lot of names can be a little confusing, but I've gotten to a wild card draft that I like, and it's a little out there, which also makes me happy because I'm playing my own game.
That's why I think you should do it. I personally love your double Brighton attack. I genuinely love it. I'm not just saying that to try and beat you in points. I genuinely think that's a really good option that no one else is going to do. And if Brighton score, the chances of it being one of those guys is quite high. So you're covering all the bases there. And they're going to score a lot of goals, I feel, in the next 2 games.
Did you know that Danny Welbeck is leading behind? He's right behind Holland in total points for an attacking player. I was shocked when I looked at the stats on that. He has 31 points.
Wow, there you go.
He's like 35 years old. How does he have so many points?
He's only 33, actually. I feel like he's definitely like 43, but he's banging them in right now. We'll see how long he can stay healthy. I think that's other consideration. But if you're going to have him in the short term, it does make some sense. I think one mistake and one thing I've already written down in my notebook for next year already is start the season with no triple ups. I want to be able to have the 2 picks from a team, but like I started with this triple up of Crystal Palace and not loving life right now. And I think that's because we thought Henderson was the best goalkeeper to start, and he's been whatever. He's been fine, but I think
better than Sanchez.
That's true.
Yeah, well, Bob the Monster, Garbo. But yeah, I'm just a little concerned about, the short-term nature of having 2 attackers from Brighton and then not having a wild card to sort that out later. It just seems like a wasted transfers on very middling players, but that's my take. And maybe I've turned a new leaf after going $2 wild last season. I'm being much more pragmatic this season.
Well, I will say to my defense, what I've seen from players that win FPL and players that finish really highly is you have to really go all in on a couple teams at certain points in the season. And I think the next 2 fixtures for Brighton, pretty hard to get better than that. And then I also will want to have a triple up on Liverpool. So that's really the debate. It's really Palmer and, can I stretch maybe to have Jackson cover him as an example and then get Robbo in defense? So then I have Salah, Trent, and Robbo, or Verge. Again, Verge and Robbo, both 6 million. So kind of interchangeable. And that makes it really easy to get a Arsenal defender in game week 6 because you already have that price point covered. So that's just the debate I'm going through, whether to have Palmer, whether he's going to reward me as a Chelsea fan and an FPL owner, or to spread those funds elsewhere. So that's the kind of big debate that I'm dealing with in my wildcard 4 draft, not the Brighton guys, to be honest.
All right. I think that's a pod for today, boys. We'll be back next week. Cannot wait for the international break to be over. We're actually going to have our first guest of the season as well. So we're very excited to spotlight someone from our FPL USA ranks, and we'll be teasing that on our social media accounts in the next week here. I'm looking forward to that episode. Any last words before we get out of here?
If you haven't already, follow us on socials. We're at FPL USA Press Play. You can also join our free to enter mini league. The code is T88F87. The winner gets a free kit. If you're too rich to get a free kit, maybe you should be sponsoring our podcast. And don't join our mini league for sure. We don't want to reward any of the millionaires and billionaires around the world with free stuff. Just kidding. Anyone who wins our league, you well and truly deserve it. So get involved. It's a really competitive league. We just sent out our free kit to the winner, and we're hoping to get photos of him in his blue Manchester United away kit in short order. So thanks again. This has been a great pod. We will be back with our first guest next game week. And Dan, we want to wish you best of luck in your little procedure that you're going to have. So get in Dan's DMs and wish him best of luck and continued good health, because we love having the wolf leading our podcast. Oh,
appreciate it. Thank you.
We're always better together. So hopefully we'll be featuring the 3-headed monster here very soon on a pod coming to your airwaves.
I'll be back in no time. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm the one who actually looks like a monster. You guys are both beautiful lads.
It's the beard.
It is the beard. It is the beard.
You guys have James Harden's stylist. I love it. That's a pod. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with another great episode previewing Game Week 4 and giving the updates coming out from the international break. Bye-bye.